This is Stepan Puchkov and Deep Grey Matter, a channel about the art of making decisions and the science behind it. Today we will talk about prospect theory. Prospect theory was developed by Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman and was awarded the Nobel Prize. Prospect theory deals with human attitudes to gains and losses. Unlike the previous existence theories, and somewhat counterintuitively, prospect theory emphasizes that the absolute amounts of gains and losses are not as important as reference points. For instance, gaining $100 when you have nothing at all is very, very delightful. But gaining the same hundred of bucks if you have hundreds of thousands is barely noticeable. The other crucial point is that we dislike losses much more than we like gains of equal objective value. Let's see at the graph that Kahneman offers to illustrate his theory. It is really insightful. For the sake of argument, we'll discuss financial gains and losses. So, on the horizontal axis, dollar amount is depicted, whereas on the vertical axis, its psychological value or utility. For instance, equal gains and losses of say $100 trigger different psychological reaction. Finding $100 is good, but losing $100 is bad, and the amount of utility is bigger for the loss condition than for the gain condition. This psychological trait is called loss-aversion. Humans naturally seek gains and avoid losses, and it is determined evolutionary. For example, when in Stone Age we had extra meat, we couldn't save it because we didn't have refrigerators, and so having some extra meat was not really engaging psychologically. On the other hand, losing food could mean starvation and death, and naturally it triggered a much more vivid reaction. Now let us illustrate another crucial point of prospect theory. Gains and losses trigger less and less vivid reaction as they grow. So, for every next $100, the amount of utility is smaller and smaller and smaller, until at some point your gains and losses constitute such a little fraction of your wealth that you can barely notice the change in utility. Kahneman offers an example of a dim light that changes a lot in a dark room, but is unnoticeable or almost unnoticeable in broad daylight. This principle is called a principle of diminishing sensitivity. It also entails another consequence. It becomes incredibly important to know the reference point. We need to know exactly where we are to correctly assess how much will a gain please us or a loss disappoint us. To illustrate this, Kahneman offers an experiment that you can run yourself. Take 3 glasses of water, one ice cold, the other at room temperature, and the third hot. Put the index fingers of your 2 hands, one in the cold water and the other in the hot water, and then put them both at the same time in the middle glass where the water is at room temperature. You will experience the same water as hot with one finger and as cold with the other. The 3 cornerstone principles of prospect theory: first, importance of the reference point; second, the principle of diminishing sensitivity; and third, loss aversion, are seen from a graph. The graph is S-shaped, which illustrates the diminishing sensitivity principle. It is also not symmetrical, which represents loss aversion. Finally, it is clearly seen from the graph how important reference points are. For instance, the satisfaction of moving from $0 to $100 is obviously much bigger than satisfaction from gaining $100 in addition to $10,000. It is a fairly difficult task to discuss prospect theory in just a few words within a short video. I cannot emphasize enough how important the theory is for the life that surrounds us nowadays. It is enough to say that the Nobel Prize awarded for this theory was in economics, not in psychology. And in the next videos, we will certainly discuss some particular implications of the prospect theory. It is also incredibly important to understand not only economical but different sorts of everyday decisions. And we will come back to the prospect theory every now and again. So I really encourage you to ask me questions if anything was unclear. This was Stepan Puchkov and Deep Grey Matter. Between the devil and the deep grey matter, always choose the deep grey matter.